everyone. I'm Linda Nickell, and welcome to the Happiness Hour. Every week, photographers meet here to connect, inspire, and create. And with the help of a guest speaker who shares the stories behind their photographs, they offer tips and they inspire us to try something new. You can find the schedule on my website at lindanickell.com/happiness hour. And while you're there, please consider signing up for our monthly newsletter. Tonight's guest is Ruth Hoyt. Ruth is an award-winning nature and wildlife photographer based in deep South Texas. She brings not only decades of experience behind the lens, but also a deep respect for the natural world and a true gift for teaching. In her presentation, Crafting Your Photography Workflow from Capture to Creation, Ruth will share her personal process, one that begins with quiet observation in the field and ends with a powerful image that tells a story. Whether she's photographing birds in flight or the subtle beauty of a wild landscape, Ruth's approach is grounded in patience, anticipation, and a deep understanding of behavior and light. If you've ever wanted to spend less time editing and more time connecting with your subject, this talk is for you. Ruth's thoughtful techniques will help you capture stronger images in the moment and create with greater purpose and ease. If you haven't connected with Ruth before, you can find her through her website at ruthhoyt.com. And she hasn't posted in a while. Ruth Hoyt, what's wrong with you? But she hasn't posted in a long, long time on Instagram. But you can find her at Ruth Hoyt Photo. All right, with that, welcome back to the Happiness Hour, Ruth. You,
Thanks, Linda.
you
It's good.
knew I was going to make a jab about your Instagram account. Come
I
on.
know. I know. I should do it.
There's just not enough time in the day. I know it's you teach, you travel to teach, you are mentoring a handful of people that are participating in a huge wildlife contest that takes place here in Texas. You were speaking for a group last night. I know you're busy. Um, Ruth is one of the people that allows me to track her. So she's zipping all over the place. So thank you for coming and thank you for offering to once again share what you know with this group. So what did I miss? Anything you want to add to?
Oh, you said plenty.
Okay. All right. All right.
Tonight, I'm going to talk about crafting your workflow from capture to creation. So I put my contact information here. It's ruthhoyt.com. There you can get a hold of me through the contact page. You can also find me on Instagram, but I haven't really been active there. So I think it's just better to try and get me through my website and reach me there. So we're going to talk about capturing the best photos tonight. And you'll find that I guess I'm going to say I have a little bit of a sense of humor when I do this. I think it's really important to know your subject. And so I've got some pictures to maybe surprise people. Did you know that the Texas tortoise eats dirt? Did you ever watch a dragonfly lay eggs? They dip their tails in the water like that. Did you know that the daddy northern bobwhite takes just as much care of his chicks as the mama does? Um, The groove-billed anis are a family unit. They travel together, they migrate together, they live together, they spend a lot of time together. And I already talked about bobwhites, but if you know their behavior, you'll know that they are active and they call each other and they're somewhat like chickens, and so they'll sometimes jump up and flare their wings at the same time. Did you know the crested caracara has a gesture that it makes? It makes a gravelly sound, and does a head toss. It looks like bird yoga. If you're facing the bird, if the bird is facing you, it will look like it doesn't have a head when it does this. But if the bird is facing away from you or doing a profile, you get to see this. And the black-crested titmouse is super tiny and super fast. And if you know his habits, you'll know where to aim before he gets there. And the golden-fronted woodpecker loves yopon berries. So if you put up a branch where you like to photograph, you'll probably get a golden-fronted woodpecker. So these are just some of the things about the subjects that I photograph. This is the Texas horned lizard, and they bury themselves in sand when they want to hide. They eat ants for a living. Anyway, so let's move on to know your camera. Got a few pictures that would give you an indication that I do know how to use my camera and its settings. So I call this picture getting help from my little friends instead of getting a little help from my friends. But anyway, knowing your camera helps you get pictures like this. It's a butterfly in flight, knowing the shutter speed that you need to achieve something like that. But it also is helpful to know what you can do with night photography. I do love doing night photography, and you don't really have to go anywhere to do night photography. You might think, oh, I don't have dark skies. You don't have to have absolutely dark skies. I mean, I have good skies, but you don't have to have dark skies. These two pictures you've seen are from next door to where I live. But you could do this without a dark sky. I love photographing cactus at night. It's about knowing your camera and knowing about lighting. And you should also be prepared for the unexpected. So I've got pictures that were maybe surprising, and I was ready, so I got the picture. This is actually a film photo from 25 years ago, and I'm not going to talk about each picture, but this one is sort of significant because it's a little green animal biting the nose of a western diamondback rattlesnake. And when animals are frightened, they either fight or take flight. And this little green animal took on the rattlesnake. Now, the rattlesnake doesn't eat cold-blooded animals like an anole or a frog or anything like that, but the anole doesn't know that because some snakes do eat frogs, lizards, and other cold-blooded animals. So the impact of this anole on the rattlesnake was nothing to the snake. It just sat there, didn't do anything. And when the anole let go and ran, the snake didn't do anything. If you know a green jay's habits, they don't bathe often, but when they do, they give little clues that they're going to do it. They'll pretend like they're going to drink, and they'll do that 2 or 3 times, and they look around because they're very vain. They don't want to look wet, and they don't like to look out of place. And so what they do is they pretend like they're going to drink, and then they all of a sudden dip under the water, stand up, and then fly away. And I got this guy before he flew. This perch was out in the water, and it didn't have anything to attract a bird there, but a kiskadee landed there and took a drink, and I was just in the right place at the right time. Crested caracaras. These birds were wet. It had been raining, and so the birds were wet. And it was a couple, and they were moving around together, and I was in a below ground blind, so I was at ground level, and they were milling around, and all of a sudden, the one on the right did it's a rattle, they call it, and it started rattling, and it did the head toss, and I was in the right spot at the right time. This is a great kiskadee. I call this a bad hair day, and I just thought that was so funny. I had to crop it and go tighter. So we have wind in South Texas a lot, and the bird was perched so that the wind was blowing his hairdo the wrong way. Just recently, I was in Covington, Louisiana with my guy friend, and we went on an Audubon walk. And I had never really been on an Audubon group walk, and so I wasn't sure what to expect. So we all piled into cars. We met at the place, the meeting place, and when we got there, the coordinator said, "Okay, everybody, let's caravan. So find somebody to ride with so we don't have so many cars." So we birded by car. I've never done that. Not like that anyway. Everybody got into cars and we got in with somebody else. And the first stop we made, I thought they would be just quietly watching, but they were conversing and I'm going to say sort of noisy. But I heard this prothonotary warbler and I spotted it quickly. And this is the whole picture. He was up higher and he went down this branch hanging down and started singing. And so I got him just like that. And then I cropped that one to a vertical shot. I thought that made a good shot. It's only 125th of a second, which is really slow, but it was enough to capture the bird in mid-song. Generally, when I'm doing birds, I start at 500th of a second. If they're flying, I go to at least 1/2500th of a second or 3200 or 4000. Great kiskadee are hunters. They're in the flycatcher family, but they'll dive for minnows, aquatic insects, and flies and butterflies, flies, anything that flies in the sky. But this one was an aquatic insect that it dove down and got and came up, and I was ready. This is a ferruginous pygmy owl. They're in South Texas, but they're not common. But if you're lucky enough to know where they are, you can find them. And this guy was stretching, so I caught him. I think he looks like a little angel, but they are quite the predator. This Pyrrhoxia was picking the berries off of this cactus plant that I had set up. You can see all the little spots where the berries had been plucked. He came in facing backwards each time, grabbing a berry and flying off with it. And when he came to take the final berry, he turned and looked over his shoulder. So I got that photo. He was sort of frustrating because there were so many berries on that thing. And when he got to the last one, he finally gave me a shot. This is at the Laguna Seca Ranch. I guide there, and it's at the horned frog blind, and there we have some rocks there, and the cardinal came and was drinking from that. And I liked this picture, but I liked it a little bit more tight, so I cropped it. I reversed it just to see if I'd like it better that way. And I'm not saying one is better than the other, but I do. I do crop a little bit. I try to do everything I can in the camera because I hate spending time on the computer, and you'll see that later on in my program. I love orioles and I love downward facing birds. I don't know if that's from yoga or what, but I love downward facing. So this is an oriole, and then it came back to the same perch going the other way. This is a Lincoln sparrow. I had set up this perch that had some little blossoms on it, and I wasn't sure what would come to it. And this bird just gave me a composition that I wasn't prepared for, but I got it. Had I been better prepared, I think I would have had a looser composition so that I would have the branch on the right side framing the bird in. But sometimes you're just not quite fast enough. I do go to Colombia and Costa Rica. I love going into Central and South America. So I've got some pictures from trips there. And I'm not going to go into the names of all these birds. This one is the multicolored tanager. You can see why it's got its name. But I do love traveling and getting those. Um, I'm proud of my students and colleagues, so I've got some pictures to share with you uh, to show you what I do with people who come to learn from me or go with me on trips. Um, this is from David Wahlberg of Austin, Texas. He came down and wanted to learn how to do birds in flight, and this was one of his first attempts, and he got these green jays in. Um, Well, one's in flight, one's reacting to the other one, but very fast. This one is from Kathy Durrett. She lives in Amarillo, and she went with me to Colombia last November. And no, actually, she went this spring. Anyway, it's a chachalaca and its baby. She did this one at the Galveston Feather Fest Birding Festival, and she has just made this a big print. I haven't seen it yet, but we worked on it the last time we got together. She ordered it, and she just received the print, and she's made it very large for over her bed. I have young interns. I say young, they're younger than me. They're teenagers who have been with my youth photo workshops. And so this little duckling is from Simon Fontenot. He's one of my interns, and he loves photography and competing in contests and sharing what he knows. So he helps me with my youth workshops. This is also one of his photos from a couple of years ago. This is from Nathan Mowers. He's another of my interns, and they've been helping me for, well, several years, let's just say that, and with my youth photo workshops. And I love working with them and inspiring them and motivating them. So, not this coming weekend, but the following weekend, Nathan and Simon are going to run my class. I'll be there and they're using my slideshow, but not with my photos. They're putting their photos in the slideshow. And so I think it's really important to help get people out, the young people out into nature and hopefully with a camera or binoculars. This picture was taken by Benny Cantu. He lives here in Falfurrias, and this is on the ranch where he lives. This is also one of his first attempts at macro. He's learning macro now. This is, okay, it's not a wildlife photo, but I guess it really is. This dog belongs to Charles Lawrence, and he bought a new Sony camera. He's a Canon shooter and has been for years and years, but he bought a Sony to see how fast it could focus. And so his dog is crazy about chasing balls. And so he was playing with her and getting photos of her with the ball. He also loves doing night photography, and this was taken on the ranch here in Falfurrias. Sorry, this was taken on the ranch here in Falfurrias where he visits. He lives in Houston. This photo has a story. It belongs to John Pickles, my guy friend. This is from 2007. He and I were in the wildlife photo contest that's called Wildlife in Focus, and we were photographing together. He had a 600 mm lens. I had a 500 mm lens, and he was closer when this coyote came in. I couldn't get the picture because he was closer, and I didn't want to move to startle the coyote. But anyway, this picture was entered in that contest. It won the Coyotes class, it won the Mammals division, and then it went on to win Best of Show. I almost didn't enter it in the contest. He let me decide what photos we were going to put in. And because the feet were cut off, I just didn't really want to enter it. But I knew it was his favorite photo, so I did enter it, and I'm glad I did. This photo it belongs to David Welling. He's a fellow photographer from California, and he was photographing green jays at a photo blind. And a rattlesnake came in and grabbed the green jay, and he was fortunate to be in the right place at the right time. And I know that the shutter speed was a 30th of a second because he told me about it. And it's actually pretty neat because you see the blur of the bird, but the eyes of the snake and the bird are both sharp. It's an amazing photo. This one belongs to Veronica Holmes, and she lives in Harlingen and went to Colombia and Costa Rica with me. And this photo was taken of a resplendent quetzal in Costa Rica. And she's been with me on several trips, and if you would see her first pictures of Quetzals, you would be just so impressed because she went from really not knowing much about them to knowing what to do and what to expect. And she has some limitations. She's in a wheelchair, and so her skills, her motor skills are a little bit slower than most of us, but she was able to get this photo, and I'm so proud of her. When I saw this photo and we were in a lesson a couple of weeks ago, I was just really blown away by it. So moving on, I know you want to know a little bit about the computer stuff. That's not my favorite part, but because it's not my favorite part, I have learned to be very efficient. So once you've pressed the shutter, what comes next? I think there are 4 things that you need to do. You need to back up your photos, review them, process the ones that you want, and export them. So let's talk about backing up. I use 2 external hard drives, and I named one A and the second one B. A is your main drive and B is your backup. I copy the photos to both eventually, and I never touch the B drive. The A drive is the working drive, and the B drive is for backups only, so I never touch that. So if you were to see my computer screen when it's all cleaned up, I have the A drive and the B drive, and I'm showing you the A drive here. And this is what I do. I put photos for review. And so this is my Olympus camera 125 OM SYS. That's the folder that the pictures are in. And then there's the B drive, and that's where I put my card backups. So the next thing I do is I use Drive A to review my photos. And I've been doing, I guess we're going to call it photo culling with the guys here in Falfurious, and they say I'm ruthless. And so, yeah, I'm Ruth and I'm ruthless. But you do need to be ruthless and delete the culls. So in Drive A, that's where I put my photos, and I leave the card alone. I don't take anything out of the card. And in Drive A, I do my review. So I just did a sample here. I was at the Laguna Seca Ranch last week, I think, actually June 15th. I decided to use these photos for that. So a roadrunner came in, and so I've got all these photos to go through. And so I put them into Photo Mechanic, and that's where I review them. I code them, so you can just type in the number. 1 is for red, 2 is for yellow, 3 is for green, and so on. I only use the 1 and 2. I use 1 for delete or cull, and 2 for yellow for keep. So these are all the red ones. I delete most of them. So I take all my red ones, I put them showing and not anything else, and then I delete them. Now I've got the yellow ones left. And if you look here, there are 20, I think it says 24. Yeah. Down at the bottom, it tells you how many you have. So I have 24 photos, but I don't want, they all look alike. So, there's different sequences in the series. And so I don't want to keep all of them. So I cull further. And now I've got my green ones. I've narrowed it down to 14 photos. And I don't necessarily need to throw away the yellow ones, but the green ones are the ones that I'm looking. No, the green ones are the culls. Yep. So now I come to my yellow photos, and I've narrowed it down to 10 photos, and I want to copy them into my the location where I'm going to use them in the computer. So I select them all and I copy them, and I put them in a category called Roadrunners. Now, when I'm doing this on my own and not doing a presentation, I usually have it labeled differently, but I did this just for ease of operation to show you what I'm doing. So I make a folder that the photos are going to, and then I put them there. And that's what this looks like. Now I've got my 10 photos, and I import those into Lightroom. And you can see up at the top, it says copy. I'm going to copy these into the folder where I really want them. And I also rename them. If you look on the right side, it says rename files. and I put GRRO, that will go in the middle of the name. If you look, I don't know if you can see it, but in the right panel, it says rename photos, GRRO, and extensions. You leave it as is, and then it gives you a sample. So it shows you the date and the GRRO, and then the file number from the camera, and ORF stands for Olympus RAW file. Now the GRRO stands for Greater Roadrunner. And if you look down below in the keywords box, it's still white. I've put the GRRO, Greater Roadrunner, LSR for Laguna Seca Ranch. And so those are my keywords going into it. So now I've got my 10 pictures and I'm going to import them. And that's what they're doing. If you look at the top left, it says Building Standard Previews. And then once they're in, I've got my 10 photos and I pick which ones I want to work with. And you can see the white flags on the 3 that I've narrowed it down to. I'm very particular. And so, like if you look at the first photo, the bird is more of a profile. The second photo, the bird is looking a little bit towards the camera. So I tend to lean toward that. The third photo, which is the second white flag, the bird walked into the water. And that was pretty cool because they don't typically do that. And he dipped down and drank, and he was still squatting down in that first picture in that series. I liked him when he was way down and had just dipped into the water. And I also like the second to last photo, which I've also flagged. So I'm going to pick one of these photos to work with. And I picked the second flag, the first time when he dipped down into the water. And so you can see those are the 3. I look at them at full screen. This is where I evaluate how sharp they are and what the color looks like. And what I'm going to do with it. So those are the 3 photos. So now the process is I use Lightroom Classic. I don't like using the web because I want to always be able to have control of my images. And I know I don't always have Wi-Fi and sometimes you have to go on the web. So I like using Lightroom Classic. I like to keep it simple and I like to back up. So here's where I start processing my image. I do an auto white balance to see what it looks like. And if I don't like it, I undo it. And then I go into the tone and then I go in to do a crop. And I thought my water was a little bit offset, going uphill a little bit on the right. So I want to straighten that out. So I'm going to make a crop, and you can see the diagonal line that goes through the legs of the Roadrunner. You set what you think is horizontal, and then you go ahead and enter, and it crops it makes the picture straighten the horizon. And I decided I wanted a 16:9 ratio for my crop. So then I crop down, and now I've got the picture the way I want it, and I make my crop. You can see that I've already made adjustments. If you look at the exposure and the contrast, all those things have been done already. So now I'm ready to move on with it. This is before, and I think, yeah, there's my full screen of what the photo's going to look like. So now I'm back into the library, and this is where you're going to export your photo. You have to decide what you want to do with it. And so I choose what usage it's going to be. First of all, you decide if you're going to make a print or if you're going to do something that you would see on a screen, like a phone or an iPad or a website, something like that. Sometimes I'll send Linda one of my pictures, and so that would be the screen usage. And then you back up. So when I go into the export window, I have, if you look at the top left, it says user presets. And I have tons of presets. Not only are they for me, but they're for other people too because of my teaching. So you can see that I've clicked on the 54-inch exhibit print. I do large prints sometimes. And so I've got a preset for a 54-inch. Now from from 54 inches, you can change that and make another preset. So like, let's say you do 54-inch exhibit prints, but then you also want to make a smaller print to frame in, just put on in a small spot. So then you could make a 12-inch print, and it's based on the long side, and so the long edge. So that would be my exhibit print. Here is my 2000 pixel with a watermark. You can see that I've named it so that I can always find it and know what it's going to produce. And if you look in the center of the panel and you go down, you see the export location. You can change the file name, and if it's a video, do something with that. But I don't change the names. And then there's the file settings. I use JPEGs and I use sRGB, and I make the quality 100% because even though it's small, I want it to look good. And then image sizing, that's a 2000 pixel on the long side at 100 pixels per inch. My, my output my output sharpening is set for screen and low. It's a sharp image, so I don't like to over sharpen. And then if you look at the watermark, that's where it tells you what it's going to be. It's going to be in the bottom right, and it's going to be white. So my signature is going to be white when it exports. And then if I haven't already got one of these presets, you can go to the bottom of the panel on the left where it says add, and you can add it and name it appropriately. So when I'm teaching students, I'll sometimes use their name so I know that it's not mine and I don't put their watermark on my pictures. And so I can name all my presets however I want. So when I work with any of them, I have already got it in my computer. Most of the time we put it on their computer, but when I'm doing demos, a lot of times I'll work with them and have their names on mine. So my usage of the computer is maybe different from the rest of you unless you teach this kind of stuff. But anyway, this is where I am when I watermark my photos and output them for a JPEG. So I have a folder on my desktop, and it's called Lightroom Exports 2000 Pixels. And this is a photo that I'm showing here that was from last week when I was in Amarillo working out there. And I got the scaled quail. They call it the blue quail sometimes. And you can see that the light is really soft, and they do have a blue cast to them. But anyway, that's just showing you that there's another photo in that LR Exports 2000 Pixels. The one above is my Roadrunner, and you can see that it has the bottom right corner with white lettering, Ruth Hoyt. And I share it. And I love AirDrop. So I always click on AirDrop, and you can see the names of the people that I do things with all the time. Kathy is from Amarillo. Veronica is in Harlingen. Simon is one of my interns. Kim Marks is my sister. So you see, when you AirDrop, it's always showing you the people that you interact with the most. And so I go to AirDrop and into my iPhone, and that would be it. So that's, I say thank you very much and ask if there's any questions. I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
I have a couple of questions.
All right.
Okay. First one, well, the first question and the second question are both Andy's. So Andy wants to know, is there a benefit for using Photo Mechanic over just doing it in Lightroom or Windows Photo Viewer?
Oh my gosh, yes, that's a great question. So Photo Mechanic is super handy because it loads previews very quickly. So Lightroom, you have to import, and it takes forever. And I don't like sitting at the computer. I spend as little time at the computer as possible. So I love Photo Mechanic. It's been around for 25 years. It's been around for a very long time. And I love using Photo Mechanic. You can code things, one is red, two is yellow, three is green, and so on. So I'm always using Photo Mechanic. I use it to view photos before I go into Lightroom, and I'll use it even later after I've done it. It's very quick and easy. I use a Mac, so I'm not sure if it's faster than a Windows unit, but I am on a Mac, so I do. It loads super fast.
Okay. Second question is there a difference between sRGB and ProPhoto RGB and or does it matter?
Yes, there's a difference. So sRGB is designed for screens. So like your cell phone, your iPad, your computer monitor, and it has a limited number of colors, whereas ProPhoto is more meant for printing. So when I make a print, I'm always in ProPhoto. It's better for printing.
Okay. Alrighty. Well, Andy says thank you. So I'm not seeing any other questions. All right. So I I get to say thank you. And when are you coming back?
Oh, let's see, in about a year from now, maybe?
That's right.
It seems to
That's the
be an annual thing with us.
Yep, that's the answer. That's the answer I want. All right, Ruth, thank you so much. You're always a good trooper about coming and helping and filling in a slot on my calendar. So I so appreciate it. All right, next week, dark sky photographer Brandon Black will be here to share his presentation, An Evening Under the Stars. Until next time, go out and create something beautiful. And I hope that we see you again soon.